I've been an affiliate in the music niche, and I have also had the privilege of interviewing multiple top clients here at ClickBank. So I actually recently just had a chance to chat with Sebastian Faya, who's a Diamond affiliate. So be sure to stay tuned until the end of this hour, and I will share some nuggets of wisdom from that conversation with you guys. And of course, if any questions are coming up during the call, feel free to send them through the chat, and I will answer them when I can. But let's kick things off by diving into some questions. So first, I want to touch on this one from Shanda. So her question was about using Quora plus uh, this landing page as an organic affiliate marketing strategy. So just diving right in, Quora Organic can be interesting. I would say that our clients and us on the ClickBank team don't have as much experience with Quora organic marketing compared to some of the more conventional things you probably hear us talking about, like meta ads, maybe organic, like Instagram, YouTube, that kind of stuff. So I can't claim to be an expert, but there are some things that I can talk about here. So first, what you do here depends on your approach. Are you trying to gain a following on Quora, or do you just want to answer some questions and try to get some of that traffic over to your landing page? So right now, I'm seeing that the page, it's called Pourquoi Pas. I happen to be taking some Duolingo French recently, so I was able to figure out, even without reading it down here, that that means why not? So I understand this is a brand that's kind of focused around, possibilities, and it covers kind of this gamut here from wellness, wealth, wisdom, and whimsy. It's a mouthful. Um, so my thoughts on that, there's nothing wrong with having a brand. There's nothing wrong with a branded landing page necessarily, but I do think there are some things that we could do to make it work better. So first of all, if you're like most ClickBank clients, you're probably focused on um, the US or like tier one geo type of audiences, the kind of people who maybe live in the United States, the UK, Australia, places like that. They're English speaking. So to have a headline that is your brand name and is in French, I think just kind of right off the bat, there's potential to confuse or uh, well, yeah, essentially to make people say, "Wait, what's going on here? I don't know French." So even if that's the brand name, that would be something to think about. Um, that's definitely a potential concern, unless you have a very familiar audience, and we can talk about that in a second. Um, the next thing I want to talk about with this is the concept of kind of the two different main routes for affiliate marketing success. So you've got free traffic and you've got paid traffic. Obviously, in this realm, Quora is a free traffic mechanism, which you tend to think of as more of like for a warm audience. And the primary currency for a warm audience is trust. But then, if you're thinking more about paid traffic, that's a colder audience, and the primary currency that you need to be focused on for that one is curiosity. And I think they're both viable. And I think with Quora, you can actually kind of go both ways. Um, but in order to have success on a site like Quora, and let's see if I can pull that up and we can explore that for a second. But um, if you're on a site like Quora, uh, you're probably going to be building up a following. Like take this person, for example, Susanna has, about 65,000 followers. And when she posts or when she answers questions, there's a lot of people who already know her and are already following her to see what she's going to talk about. So one way that you can grow on Quora is simply to focus on, I'm going to answer a lot of questions. I'm going to do some posts within maybe a specific topic area and get really well known for that, get known for providing value through the answers and the posts that you are publishing. Um, and so with the Pourquoi Pas brand, Uh, I think if you are well known for that, then that could be okay. But my recommendation is that you actually treat it a little bit more like that colder approach. You have a landing page and you're capturing people's attention through curiosity through your answers on Quora, unless you have built up that massive following like we're talking about. But assuming you're not there yet, you'll probably get more mileage out of the platform by treating it a little more like paid, creating content that's designed to grab attention, that where you're encouraging them to take that next step, checking out your landing page, pre-warming them up when it comes to some sort of a product you want to promote. Um, so I think that's one important aspect of it that could make this better. The other thing that I want to point out is you currently have many, many products listed here. And they're simply products. Like you have the Living Energy Revolution or Get Your Citrus Miracle today. These are calls to action, that's true, but there isn't really anything else on the page that is focused around that. It's not warming the audience up for that specific product. So I think in terms of a customer journey, what's the experience like? And so basically, maybe someone who's in your target audience is scrolling on Quora or they ask a question on Quora. And either way, you are providing a response for them. They read an answer that you wrote, they click through to your landing page through a link in their profile bio or maybe inside of your answer. So now they've landed here. And what is it on the page that's going to make them go, oh, I got to check this out. I got to keep going. Um, if you had an answer that was about even just like one of these high level topics of which, wellness is massive, wealth is massive, wisdom probably also massive. Uh, there's so much there that I don't think it's tailored or specific enough. So my recommendation would be you should think about making a landing page for each offer that you're interested in promoting and really think through what that niche might be. To be honest with you, when I was looking through this, when I was kind of checking out like the brand here, all this feels kind of like a spirituality manifestation kind of vibe. So I know that's not really mostly what you have as current products, but that could be an angle that you decide to pursue if you really like this overall aesthetic and kind of that angle. But I would highly recommend picking specific products and then thinking through the entire customer journey from where they're discovering you, what their experience is on this page, which don't worry, we'll go into some more information on what that kind of page could look like in a bit. And then obviously moving on to the sales page and making a purchase. So hopefully that's a helpful overview of that. We don't at ClickBank have a ton of experience with Quora specifically, so there's probably some strategies and tactics there that I don't know about, but definitely when it comes to after the platform and on like the landing page and going forward, I do think that that is some helpful information that you should consider. I would also add Quora is one place, but you might also consider building out an SEO blog that would complement that well. That might also serve as a really good intermediary. So if you've decided on a topic that you really want to focus on for Quora, maybe you have a way to route some of that traffic over to your blog, which is a little bit lower stakes of a move. It might be easier. And we haven't talked about compliance with Quora yet, but I do think it is probably tricky sometimes to do too direct of a promotional path from there. So there might be a way that you can build up more of a following through a blog and then use that to kind of warm up the audience even further. But those are just a couple thoughts on that, and I appreciate the question. Hopefully that was helpful. And obviously, if you're here and have further questions, please feel free to drop those in the chat. So let's talk about the next one. The next question is about how to drive traffic to landing page, free versus paid strategy. So there is, and let me pull up the specific link here in case that is helpful. Okay, so the link provided in the question just goes to the Citrus Burn landing page or a sales page rather. So I'll try to speak a little bit to that, but I'll try to give just some good broad information about how to think free versus paid. So, in the realm of free traffic, there are a lot of different traffic sources. You've got Instagram, you've got YouTube, you've got Facebook, you've got an SEO blog, and you also have like discussion forums, like a Reddit, maybe a Facebook group, and you have Q&A sites like Quora. Basically, these are places where you can potentially get attention for free. And that's awesome. That's actually really great if you're an affiliate who doesn't necessarily have a ton of cash on hand, but you want to like get started, you want to be active in the space. And it's a great way to learn a lot of skills that you can apply down the road if you do decide you would like to try the paid route at some point. Um, but basically, in terms of strategy for free traffic, um, the currency of free traffic is all about trust. So over time, if you have consistently published content on one or more of these free traffic platforms, then you can start to build trust with a specific audience. And what you're trying to do is build up enough trust that when you make a product recommendation, they take you seriously. You've probably heard before, uh, I think it's jab, 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 right hook, Gary V. There's also ratios that people talk about, like, for every 4 times that you provide value, you can make one ask of your audience, like that kind of stuff. Basically, thinking about it as you are showing them that you are helpful and valuable, that you know what you're talking about, most of the time when you're publishing content, so that on the occasion when you decide, hey, I've got a cool opportunity for you to check out, there's actually something built up there, some trust, some regard where they're like, okay, this person has given me a lot of good information and they've helped me out before, so I might check out what they're saying. So that's kind of the idea here. In terms of strategy on the free traffic side, I think there are a couple ways to think about it. One is just go as wide as possible, like get as much reach as you possibly can, build up the following just in terms of raw numbers as high as you can make it. Um, and then when you point people to an affiliate product, like for example, if you had 1 million followers and you told them about any ClickBank product, there's a fairly good chance you'll get some sales just because 1 million is a lot of people. And even 1% or 0.1% of 1 million is a decent number of sales. So that's one approach, is just going as hard on the numbers as you can. I think maybe a slightly more realistic approach for most people is just to be a little bit more niche down and really specific with how you're providing value, who you're talking to, what problems you're trying to help solve, the pain points that you're addressing with your content. And then you can have a deeper connection with a smaller group of people, but they're more likely to take what you say seriously, which means higher conversions. So, as an example, I actually interviewed an Instagram and TikTok creator in the music niche named Brett Bowles a few years ago. You can check out that customer story that we did on YouTube, on the ClickBank YouTube channel. But basically, he was a middle school music teacher turned creator on these platforms, these organic behemoths like TikTok and Instagram. And it took him a few years of building up his audience before he was even comfortable making an ask. And then when he did, it was a ClickBank product, it was a music offer. And he was extremely careful about introducing that product to his audience, making clear that, like, he wouldn't promote something that he doesn't believe in, that he thinks would be really helpful for them. Because he understood intuitively the whole point of building that audience was that trust factor, that someone who is watching your content and getting to know you is somebody who could actually follow through on making a purchase when you recommend that, and you want to make sure that they're someone who you trust. So that was his approach. Maybe that's a little too extreme, going that long before he decides to try to monetize, but it's a good example of kind of that other angle from the free traffic side. So the biggest issue with that approach is simply time, that it takes time and it can be challenging to build an audience. Like, attention is tricky to come by sometimes online. So you need to be very dialed in your messaging and what you're creating if you want to attract a specific audience. But with that said, you don't have to have a lot of money to do that. You get a lot of skills by trying that, and you're very likely to get higher conversions when you've built up a lot of trust with that group of people. So that's kind of the free traffic side. Hopefully, high level, that gives you some idea about how to think about that. On the paid side, I would say that the currency in that realm is curiosity, which is a very different approach. So, with paid, your job is to basically go wherever the attention exists online and then grab some of that and direct it towards a ClickBank affiliate product, usually through your own landing page and tracking link. So, paid platforms, you've got paid search like Google ads, Bing ads. You've got native ads like Taboola, Newsbreak. You have paid social, of course, which is Meta ads, YouTube ads, maybe TikTok ads. And all those seem like they have some uniqueness to each of them, but they are kind of all the same thing if you really think about it. So the strategy is basically there is a place that people are looking online. Maybe it's a feed on a social platform. Maybe it's the search results when someone does a search in Google. Maybe they're reading an article on a news website and they see your ad appearing there. But basically, somebody is consuming content online and they see your ad. That ad, the whole point of it is to catch their eye and make them want to take the next step, mostly because they're just curious about what that next step will look like. So on social media, that means that you've piqued their interest maybe with a scroll stopping image or video. On paid search, that might mean that you've chosen carefully what keywords you think would be relevant, and then you've crafted a really good text-based ad that makes them want to click through. But all told, it's just getting their attention and then directing it to your landing page. And then the job is to simply get them to click your tracking link and move on to the sales page. But so I'm going to dive more into an example of a paid landing page in a second, but I do want to show you an example of my own landing page, maybe to give you a little bit of context. So right here, if I go to my funnels here in ClickFunnels, I made this bridge page funnel a while back, and I will actually push this live here so we can see this as it would show up in someone's journey from like an ad to the landing page. So basically, this is kind of what we're talking about with an ad to a landing page. You've got a headline, you've got this image, you've got some bullet points, you've got a simple call to action, and obviously this is my hop link that goes to the sales page. So your whole job when you're launching an ad is making sure that it's something that would make someone say, "Oh, I want to learn more." And then when they land, it keeps their interest and builds that momentum and makes them want to keep going. So what I just showed you, that works really well for more of the like traditional supplements and the kind of the VSL style offers that we have on ClickBank. That's what you might also hear as a pogo page, which is just it kind of people bounce through it. You might also hear it as a pre-sale page, a bridge page. There's a lot of different terms for this landing page that lives between the traffic source and the sales page, but that's generally what it is for those types of offers. I probably can't go into as much depth as I would like to on every single traffic source. So instead of trying to do that here, I just hopefully gave you some good high level thoughts on how to think about free versus paid. And then since you have access to the Spark curriculum and all the coursework in there, you have access to like my SEO course. I also have a Pinterest course in there, but we have YouTube ads, meta ads, all kinds of really in-depth training on an individual traffic source. So I would highly recommend that you check those out if there's a specific traffic source that you want to learn more about. But high level, that's kind of how to think about it. And now I want to dive a little bit deeper into a specific paid lander the advertorial, because I did see one question as well about how to do that. So let's go to, I pulled up an example of an advertorial. I think this one, no, that's still the sales page. There's the advertorial. So I'm going to show you, I'm going to kind of go through this advertorial real quick and just kind of show you a little bit about it. And then I can show you briefly, at least kind of getting started with how you build your own using a tool like ClickFunnels. So high level, there's just a few parts of a good advertorial style page. And a little backing up a little bit for some context, an advertorial is just the same position in that funnel as one of these other types of funnels that I was talking about. You might have a landing page that's just more of the pogo page style, which is simple image or quick like series of bullet points that just jumps you straight over to a sales page. But you can also have an advertorial, which is like a very lengthy, in-depth, almost like a piece of content. The concept of an advertorial is it's like an entire article that seems like it's just content, but it is obviously built to encourage people to go check out a product. So you can see this one's pretty long. It even has some scientific like citations at the end. So, but again, the whole point of it is to get people to warm them, get people warmed up, and make them prepared to purchase when they click through. I'll show you what that looks like real quick. Just so you know what that looks like on the other side. So that takes people straight to the order form for this product, basically. So breaking down a few things on this advertorial so that you get a sense of how to do this yourself. So first and foremost, they have cited a publication and they've put that kind of in this very top navigation bar up here. I think that right off the bat is for credibility to say, this is more of like a medical journal or maybe some sort of like news site that is focused on like the niche in question, which is about weight loss. That's a big difference from just a random person. And then I will also point out that they've got this byline and author right here. So they've got an image of the author, they've got the name of the author, and they've got the role where he's focused. And that is just building a little bit of credibility right off the bat. And then the first other element to really think about for an advertorial is your headline. That's not really any different than any other landing page. Headlines are always crucial. They're the first thing that someone sees when they land there from your traffic source. And it really needs to do a good job of keeping attention, making the reader feel like, okay, I'm in the right place. This is still what I was wanting to learn about. Um, and usually in marketing, you know about the need for something of urgency or scarcity. So something like just leaked is providing a sense of like, hey, this is novel. This is not something you've seen before. And there's probably a reason to do something quickly. So those are a few things. Um, High level, when you're thinking about a headline for an advertorial page, there's really only a few major formats that are probably worthwhile. The first one, you're basically thinking about it as though you're a journalist. So what sounds newsworthy? That's the whole game for an advertorial. But the three kind of basic formats for it would be, I discovered, I checked out, I tested, I tried, X product or X solution type of product. That's one. Another is like I tested a series of products within this broader product category. So like I tested the battery life on the top 5 new smartphones, kind of a thing. Or like we have here, like a new study from scientists. That's a pretty big one that gets a lot of attention, and it's because from a copywriting standpoint, You want a unique mechanism. You want something that feels different than what someone has already encountered before. So there's a lot of value in having a study you can cite that is promising something new and different than what people may have already experienced before. So, so far we've talked about maybe having like the name of some sort of publication, having an author, um, thinking through the headline. And I also want to touch on this real quick. This first image that you have is super, super crucial for an advertorial because it reinforces what your headline is. And it also should reinforce what your ads were or your content before they even came to this page. It needs to continue to demonstrate that. So just pointing out what we have here, you've got this image that someone's holding of this woman on day one, and then it shows her on day 30 having lost some weight, and you have the scientist pointing to some stuff on this poster here. And both of those are reinforcing the, you know, scientist discovers, and you've got someone who looks science-like over here, and then you've got burning 3 times more fat, and you can show the progression there. So I'm not saying that you need to follow this exact format for your own, but think through like what visual can actually reinforce what we're talking about in the headline, what we're promising. Because that's exactly what they're doing here with this sort of split screen image. And I think it does a good job of making people say, oh, this is right where I'm supposed to be if this is what I'm interested in. So another point about advertorials, it is often a first person, uh, it's coming from a person. So in this case, we have this editor, Dennis Miller, writing about his experience, and he's talked about his own experience. So I would highly recommend you try writing this advertorial when you're telling a story about your discovery or about the test that you've done or whatever it is. You're writing it from your point of view, your perspective. Um, we talked about that. We talked about the image. I would say the next most important thing is to have a really bold opening. So this is one thing. It provides a little more context about the author, but I think this is probably the next really bold like intro that really is designed to hook people and get them to keep tuning in. So I'll just read this part real quick. While working in Harvard's research labs, I found proof of an exotic plant molecule. It can control blood sugar almost like those mega expensive options only millionaires can afford, and it's 17 times more affordable. But the difference, this compound can trigger up to 3 times more fat burning when delivered the right way. And until now, no one outside a handful of labs was supposed to know about it. So right off the bat, there's some really interesting numbers. If you're a price sensitive consumer and you hear that there's a way that you can lose weight that maybe isn't as expensive as a Zepbound or a Monjaro, uh, and it can maybe even be more effective than that, and that people aren't supposed to know about it. That's intriguing. So this is all designed to really grab attention and kick things off in a way that makes you want to keep reading. So I would say from here, a lot of this is telling a story, like, and really like starting emotional. So in the ADA framework, attention, interest, desire, and action. Obviously, your first part is just get people's attention, and which you, if you have an ad, if you're running paid campaigns, the very first step of that is probably in your ad. Like you grabbed attention, you establish curiosity in the ad, but you want to keep that in your headline and the first image here. And then from there, you're going to focus on growing interest. So you're doing, that bold opening, you're citing stats, you're doing some stuff to really like make this sound intriguing. But from there, I would say a good chunk of the next portion of an advertorial should be very emotion focused. So people getting frustrated that they're working out and it's not and nothing is happening. Um, and then the next piece, so it goes, with interest, emotion, but then also the logic, the logical piece of this. So it's really important that you have both emotion and logic. And emotion, I think, is good to come first because it really draws people in and makes them interested. But you need to reinforce why this is something that is working. And you do that by providing more like in the realm of like numbers, statistics, a unique mechanism. You're explaining how this is different than maybe what they've experienced before. And then once you've established that desire through those stages, then obviously the final step is action, which is the call to action. And so there's even within this one, the very first call to action, it's like, first of all, it's in the sticky sidebar, it's also only about like, 3/4 of the way down the page is that first one. And then there are a couple more, and then another one. So you can absolutely have, 4 or 5 different. Oh, you also have a one down here. So you can absolutely have multiple calls to action for your advertorial style page because obviously the point is to really do a lot of the warming up and the selling on this page, unlike with some of those VSL style landing pages we were talking about, where you're really just trying to get them to just land there and then immediately bounce over to the next one. This one they might spend some time. You're really trying to persuade them. And one thing that's cool, I think I was going to touch on this briefly. Uh, a lot of the offer owners on ClickBank have resources. So the one that I was just showing you, you can see like some of these images in here. It's kind of cool. You don't necessarily have to come up with all of this yourself. You have like the photos that they're providing. Um, as an example, just pull up one of these. And so, yeah, you've got a person with the berberine patch with thumbs up. That is something that you can grab and put in your landing page where it makes sense. Now, obviously, you want it to follow with whatever strategy you're using to try to get someone to stick around and then go through and make the purchase. So you got to find the images that are right for you. But there's a ton of resources from a lot of these products just right off the bat. So don't necessarily feel like you have to do this all yourself. So that's a little bit about the advertorial process. I was gonna potentially show real quick like what that might look like inside of a landing page builder. So the cool thing, I don't know if you've seen our ClickFunnels partnership yet, but basically we worked with ClickFunnels to create a specific framework for some of these different types of landing pages. So if you join ClickFunnels through the ClickBank side, then you can grab like a quiz funnel, you can grab that Pogo page I was talking about. You can also have a template for an advertorial just right off the bat. Just hit the import and import it to your workspace there, and then it'll install. And then you have already a pretty good amount of the process ready before you've even done anything. So from here, you can edit the page. And I wanted to kind of show like if we wanted to do something kind of similar to that, just reminding myself. So we could do, you know, just leaked. Actually, why don't I just copy it? So grab this. And then I think I can maybe add this here. Anyway, you get the idea. It's pretty easy to go through and find your own resources through the affiliate tools page and upload and write your own stuff. Another suggestion that I wanted to point out from this is if you have a starting point for your copy, like if I, like what I was just mentioning, You go through and you come up with headline, you come up with some of these elements. You don't necessarily have to do this completely from scratch. These days, obviously, there's plenty of help with AI. I don't necessarily recommend that you just have it do the whole thing for you without a lot of your own oversight and input, but it is possible now to say, hey, I want you to be like a really good copywriter, and here's kind of what I'm going for my editorial page. And can you know, expand on this section or give me some ideas or even, uh, take this and run with it a little bit. So that is kind of a quick and dirty overview of the advertorial, what that process looks like. This was specifically for our product on ClickBank, the Purasaki berberine patch, which is right here. You can see that one is available to promote and it has all those resources. So if that was one that you thought looked interesting, then that might be worth looking at. But mostly I was just trying to share some of the high level insights on how do you think about coming up with an advertorial page and that kind of thing. So our next question is an analysis of this ad over here. So there, I believe this was the landing page. So we'll talk about that real quick. So I wasn't able to find the ad specifically from this question, but I was able to check out kind of this Facebook page that links out to the landing page and then the landing page itself, so I can at least provide some context for those. So first of all, I want to point out that this is a good landing page. Like this is already really strong, I think. Um, I think headline is strong. Yeah, just for a little context real quick. If you click this hop link, it takes you to a neurosurge product that is basically for memory loss, for, neuro improvement type of benefit. So that's kind of the end point of this funnel, or this customer journey. So imagine that a person has come from the ad to this landing page, and it says this 10-second memory test is catching people off guard. I would say that's a little vague. So there might be something you could do to punch this up a little bit, but it's not bad because again, the whole point of this is curiosity. So typically the way curiosity works is when you pose a question through the phrasing. So in this case, you can imagine if someone reads the 10-second memory test is catching people off guard, their natural next thought is, oh, how? Or what test? Like there's some built-in curiosity just from the way this is phrased, which is awesome. Um, and then the rest of this copy says many adults are surprised by how difficult this simple memory test feels. Stress, overload, and brain fatigue can affect focus more than people realize. So that's pretty good. I think that's still a little bit vague, and you need to strike a balance when you're trying to establish curiosity of having it be specific enough that people feel like there's something to it. Like that's why when I showed you, let's see if I can find that page I did again. Um, with this one, it's not this. I'm not saying mine is perfect by any means, but you have the number of people that trust it. Like there's something concrete here. I would say, uh, there could be some benefit to being, like you might have this be vague, but then have a more concrete thing like stress and brain fatigue are affecting focus. Recent study found that focus is affected by 30% in XYZ situation. Like, so do a little research, maybe have something a little more concrete that really drives home like what this is trying to say. That's one possibility. Um, Going over to the image here, this is great as well. You've got an older lady, and I think that is a pretty good understanding of who the target audience is for sort of this neurotype product that is probably people who maybe are feeling a little bit of like they're feeling some brain fog or some mental fatigue. They have some of these symptoms. That tends to happen, when you're a little older. So someone who is sitting here in this image and you've got an arrow and a red circle all kind of indicating like, oh, what's going on? What is she doing? And oh, is she struggling? And it does encourage a click, I think. There's some curiosity there, and that's really all you're trying to do on a page like this, especially for a VSL style offer. So I think that's great. I think you do kind of switch back and forth between talking third person and talking like second person. So you've got this test catching people off guard, adults are surprised, and then it says, if you've noticed, see how people perform. So that's not necessarily good or bad. I would say if you feel like the page isn't performing the way you want, it might be worth just starting a little sooner with like talking to the person who's on the page rather than having it be about others in the third person. Um, One other little quibble where you say, watch the 10-second test. I feel like wording wise, watching a test sounds a little clunky. It's very nitpicky. I'll say that, but a call to action is a pretty important part of the page. So you could consider maybe something like discover the second 10-second test might be interesting. Um, if they were actually going to do something on the other side, take the test would make a lot of sense. And if you had this structured more in like a quiz funnel style, then that might work super well. But in this case, it seems like they're going to go to a VSL. So I would say something that's still kind of in the realm of like them learning about it or discovering it or finding out about it. And then the last little quibble is you said watch the 10-second test, and then right here you say takes 30 seconds. And I feel like it's again a minor quibble, but someone who's like on the fence might look at that and be like, wait, I thought you just said it was 10 seconds. Now it's 30. And that might cause them to bounce because it's not consistent. So that could be something to look at. Overall, I think the color scheme is fairly consistent. I think overall, like the layout and stuff is pretty good. I would say formatting could probably be a little bit better. This kind of feels like pretty big font. It's all very bold. So that might be something to look at. Just like, this isn't really left aligned. It's not really center aligned. So there could be some improvements there. And then the other really big thing for a page like this, um, I don't think like typically I can, do this and you can see if a page is responsive, which means it can show up just as equally on mobile. In fact, I think ideally, if I were to show you this one, you can see, yeah, when I resize the window, you can see that my landing page goes from kind of that desktop version to the mobile version. Probably not perfectly, but you get the idea. So over here, uh, if I'm not mistaken, it is really just a desktop version. So I would absolutely consider if this is just an image of your landing page and it's hosted in some other way, then forget what I'm saying here. But it seems like it might be hosted on Canva, and I might recommend that you look at, ClickFunnels, ClickBank Accelerator, High Level, a WordPress website. There are a lot of different ways that you can host a page. I think you'll probably get better conversions, better results if you're hosting it in a dedicated place that's meant for that kind of thing. And you saw what I was doing in ClickFunnels. It's not like super difficult to switch out text, add images, that kind of stuff. So that would definitely be my recommendation, just to make sure that that's all good. So let me check in real quick. So I'm not seeing any questions. So at the moment, I just wanted to share some of my insights from my chat with Sebastian Faya. So for those who don't know, Sebastian Faya is a full-time diamond affiliate, which means he's made $5 million a year, at least for the past couple years, on ClickBank specifically. So he's doing very well as a media buyer affiliate. He focuses on the health niche. He's doing this on his own as a solo affiliate, which is really cool, really impressive stuff. So I wanted to just share a few things that I learned from my conversation with him that if you are in the realm of paid media, maybe this can give you some good insights. So historically, the way that he liked to look for offers to promote was just checking for what's on the bottom of page one of ClickBank. So if you jump into the marketplace and you go to like view all offers, so you can see like we have some offers at the very top. They're pretty big. If you scroll down, you can see some of these ones are performing pretty well also. Gravity scores that are between, 10 and 100, really decent average conversions. And they're going to be a little less competitive than those ones that are just like absolutely dominating at the top. So that's definitely something to think about. Um, for scaling and campaign management, he was saying just 2 to 3 days is enough to know if you have a good ad. Um, and the chances of breaking even for that are pretty high. So it's worth waiting for data on the ads over the course of a couple days. And if you can get an ROI in the 100 to 200% range, then you know to double the budget and you can start scaling from there. Um, some of the ways that he likes to find angles and hooks, obviously, you can check out a tools page, go to swipe files, check out winning ads in an ad library. Um, all of that stuff is good. And one of his biggest recommendations in terms of what's changed and what you need to be doing now, you need to focus a lot more on volume than you used to. I think Kirsten said that in our last office hours, but basically, it used to be that you could get away with like 10 to 30 ads a week, testing different creatives. And now it needs to be more like 100 to 200 a week if you want decent scale, especially post Andromeda update on Meta. So, the good thing though about that is you're not having to really like come up with a completely different brand new ad from scratch every single time. Uh, you can actually just have a lot of variations of one base ad. Minor variations are allowed. So he was saying, you can mess with all kinds of stuff. Like maybe this one, the playback is slightly different. So instead of it being at 1x speed, maybe it's at 1.2x speed. Or maybe you've switched out who is presenting the ad, but the script is exactly the same. Or maybe you've switched some colors around. Like if you're talking about an image, maybe you've got a couple different angles or versions of it. Like you don't necessarily need to completely reinvent the wheel for every single ad creative that you test, but you want to make sure that Meta treats those as completely separate creatives. So that is definitely a big one. He was talking about YouTube and mentioned that that one is still a tricky place. There's still a lot of policies specifically around the health niche. So in order to actually do much on there, you have to be pretty vanilla with your ads and your scripts. You apparently can't even say the words weight loss in your ad. So that could make it tricky for a product like, Persaki berberine patches or a lot of the other ones that we talked about. For the type of funnel that he uses and recommends, he's still all aboard a simple bridge page. He just switches back and forth between uh, quiz funnels and like kind of simple like pogo page or like very quick pages like the one I showed you on my piano offer. Those are really good for the VSL offers. And for those who are starting and they're still trying to figure out where to go, he absolutely recommends Meta as the easiest and best platform for getting started. And that YouTube is good if you can get it to work, but again, with compliance, it can be trickier. And then also, he recommends Newsbreak. There's a lot of people kind of in his echelon of ClickBank client who are seeing some success there with that one, which is a native ad network and one of our partners as well. So that could be an interesting place to start if you're trying to figure out where to run your paid. And then lastly, talking AI, where AI kind of fits into his workflow these days. He uses it a lot for research. He helps generate scripts with it. He creates a lot of images and videos with it. He has experimented with AI generated UGC style actors and actresses. and that has helped with streamlining the process. And he doesn't need to go to Fiverr to hire someone for a few $100s and wait, 3 to 5 days for them to get something for him. He can now use AI to help with some of that stuff. Um, just in terms of the biggest bit of advice that he gave that I think is worth repeating, especially after what we've shared today, uh, consistency is huge. You just need to stick with something long enough. He said when he first started, he was doing ecom, he was bouncing around to like Shopify and affiliate marketing and all these different things. And it was really only when he settled into like, okay, I'm going to do affiliate marketing and I want to see that work. That's when things really took off. So that is my high level overview of what I took away from that conversation. I think that was a really valuable one. So stay tuned. I think we'll probably be dropping that full interview in a bit. Um, but yeah, I think that's what I had for everybody today on our office hours. I think those were awesome questions. I really like what everybody's doing. I think it's cool to see people ranging from organic style to paid, working on landing pages, copywriting, all sorts of cool stuff. So keep up the good work. Definitely keep us informed if you have any questions so that we can get you answers the next time around. And happy scaling.